posture and breathing may be connected? Third, are we breathing the opposite way our bodies want to when lifting weights? And have we stopped breathing the way we should, and what are the implications of this? The diaphragm linked with intrinsic biomechanics and can reduce the risk of back injury. The diaphragm's connection with Psoas and back health, and breathing and the MSAC process. So breathing is the most essential function for the human body, and without it, death occurs very quickly. So we actually breathe on average about 25,900 times per day. And I believe that the quality of each breath has a huge impact on our overall health and the biomechanics of our body. And that's what we're going to look at today. So first of all, I'd just like to talk about the most important muscle for breathing, respiratory muscle, and that's the diaphragm. The diaphragm actually has some really important things actually running through it for our human body. And that is, you've got the vena cava running through the diaphragm. This is looking at the diaphragm from underneath. So then you've got the esophagus, which is here, and then you've got the aorta as well. So it's a real complex, important muscle. Now, diaphragm is actually, it's a dome shape. It's a very complex shape. It's a dome shape, a bit like a parachute shape. Now, it's actually situated just underneath here. No one's ever seen it before. And it actually separates the abdominal and the thoracic cavity. Now, during inhalation, the diaphragm actually contracts and descends downwards, increasing volume in the thoracic cavity. And then the external intercostal muscles actually pull the ribs up and out, increasing the space further. Now, this sudden increase in volume actually lowers the air pressure in the lungs in comparison to the atmospheric air. And because air flows from a region of higher pressure to lower pressure, the air then travels in through the body's airways and then into the lungs. And then during exhalation, the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles, they actually relax and restore the thoracic cavity back to its original volume. And then that forces the air back out of the lungs and into the atmosphere. We actually have primary muscles as well for inhalation. So the primary muscles, they're the main muscles you actually want to be using when breathing. And that's the diaphragm and the external intercostal muscles. And then we have primary muscles for exhalation. So they are the internal intercostal muscles, the elastic recoil of the lung tissue, surface tension, the gravity of the rib cage, and the transverse abdominis. Then we actually have secondary assistance muscles that actually assist our primary muscles when we're breathing. Now, the secondary assistance muscles for inhalation are the sternocleidomastoid, the scalenes, the pectoralis major and minor, the serratus anterior, and the serratus posterior superior, the obliocostalis, and the levator scapulae. And then we actually have secondary assistant muscles for exhalation, and they are the external oblique, the internal oblique, the rectus abdominis, the lower iliocostalis, the lower longissimus, and the serratus posterior inferior. Now, what I want you to know, the first thing I want you to know with regards to breathing is we don't actually want to rely too much on the secondary assistant muscles. One of the things I'm challenging today is that people these days seem to be breathing too much of the secondary muscles. They may be overusing muscles that they don't actually need to use so much when they're breathing. And we want to rely primarily on the primary muscles for respiration. So posture and breathing as well may be connected. So if our posture position actually compromises our breathing, then we won't be able to breathe as effectively. So I actually want to show you now, so it's a bit awkward with these desks, but I'd like to just pull your desk thing out of the way, just so you can get into a poor posture position. So just turn it around. Now, who's the biomechanics coaches here, by the way? Can you just have a show of hands? Okay. So biomechanics coaches, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to just stand up for me for 1 second, please. Anyone who's a biomechanics coach? Stand up, stand up. Okay. For the people who are not a biomechanics coach, all I'd like to do is show the non-biomechanics coaches what a positive pec minor looks like. So everyone show a positive pec minor, really exaggerate that position for me. So your shoulders are going to be shrugged forward into this position here. And now show me what lack of thoracic extension looks like. So you've got a real kyphotic spine. Okay, now sit down, and I'd like to sit in that position. Now, anybody who's not a biomechanics coach, just copy one, and I want everybody to sit in a poor position, please. So sit in a poor posture position. So this might mimic the position that a lot of people actually spend the majority of their day Don't do anything once you inhale as much air as you can, just hold it until I give you the next instruction. So everybody inhale as much air as you possibly can in that core posture position. Off you go. Deep breath in as you can, breathe in. And then once you've breathed in, I want everyone to sit up into a good posture position. Now see how much more air you can fit in. Everybody get that? You can fit, when I experimented this, I fit probably an extra third of air into my body. So try again for me, shoulders forward. Come on, make that experiment fail. Breathe in as much as you can. Come on, as deep as you can. And then once you've got that air, sit up, good posture position. Undo that posture position. Now breathe in more. Everyone gets that? Yeah, you can breathe more air. So our posture position has a massive impact on the way that we breathe. And we spend a lot of our time in that core posture position. So we actually have a good posture position that would actually be able to facilitate good breathing mechanics for us. So actually having rounded shoulders and a kyphotic spine will actually inhibit the way that we're able to breathe. So are we breathing the opposite way our bodies want to when we do weights? Okay, let's try something else. It's very sensitive. What I'd like to do is I'd like to put your hands onto your legs. This is not like that. And now everybody shut your eyes for me. Now what we're going to do, very, very sensitive to feeling what, what's going on there. I'd like you to just gently breathe in and out for me, please. I want you to try just breathing in and out. I'd like you to just assess what's actually happening to your body. I'd like to assess what's actually happening to the movement of your spine. Just carry on breathing deep in and out for me, please. Now I want to exaggerate that breathing for me, please. So I want you to start really exaggerating the breathing in and really exaggerate the breathing out. Just feel what's actually happening to the movement of your spine. Breathe in, breathe out. In and out. Everyone open your eyes. So what you would have felt, pretty much what any should have actually felt, is actually feel that when you breathe in, the spine actually extends, grows. As you breathe out, it goes into flexion. So breathing in seems to pulse into this position, breathing out seems to pulse into a flexed position. So inhalation is actually coupled with, when we breathe in, it's actually coupled with extension, abduction, and supination. Extension, abduction, supination. And exhalation, when we breathe out, this is coupled with flexion, abduction, and pronation. So I'll run through that. So breathing in is basically into extension, excites the extensor muscles, abduction, and then supination. Then breathing out takes you into flexion, abduction, and pronation. So just think of coming out of the fetal position or into the fetal position. So breathing out, breathing in, out, breathing in. Just as you felt there when you had your eyes shut and you feel the movement of the spine. Now that happens on the majority of our major joints, especially our spine, our pelvis and our shoulders. Now if we're actually breathing in, that's actually exciting our extensor muscles. And when we breathe out, that could be actually exciting our flexor muscles. Then how does that carry over to exercise? So who's actually heard of breathe out as you lift the weight and breathe in as you lower it? Has anybody heard of that method with their teaching? So I've actually taught this on my personal training qualification. I was always taught, and I'm not talking about heavy weights here, because I would say that after about 60% of your roughly over 60% of your 1 rep max, I would say that your breathing would change. I would say with weights roughly 60% or lower, I was actually taught to always breathe out as I lift the weight and breathe in as I lower it. And that's actually what focused personal training actually teaching people today. I'm here actually challenging whether that's an incorrect breathing technique. I'll give you an example. So if I was to follow that technique all the time, then what happens on some exercises if I'm actually extending to lift the weight, and on some other exercises, I'm actually flexing to lift the weight. And surely on some of the exercises, I might be doing the opposite of what the mechanics of my body want to do, just as you felt there. You felt that as you inhale, your spine went into extension. As you exhale, your spine went into flexion. So if I was going to follow that rule that I was taught in my personal training qualification, instead of lift together for lightweight, I would then be taught to breathe out as I lift the weight. Where I know that breathing in extension, I want to be inhaling in. So I may be doing the opposite to what the mechanics of my body wants to do. Now the first time I actually got taught this, I kind of went away and thought, is that right or is it not? And I went away and experimented with it. I love experimenting with everything, especially to do with biomechanics. And I went away and I used light weights, and as soon as I did it the other way around, I thought, why on earth had I been doing it the other way around? I just followed what everybody else had been doing, and I started lifting that way, and as soon as I swapped it around, it just felt so much more natural for my body. But whenever my spine goes into extension, I want to be breathing in. Whenever my spine goes into flexion, I want to be breathing out. So what I want us to do is I want to go away and want to experiment with this with yourself. Now please be careful, not talk about with heavy weights, I'm talking about with light weights. I'd like you to go take a, so I'll run through what I'm challenging that I think is correct, so you know the difference between the two. So if I was going to deadlift the weight, I'm going to be coming out of the fetal position. So I'm going to be inhaling to excite those extensor muscles. So I'm going to be here, breathing in, and then breathing out on the way down. Okay? Whereas previously, I've been taught to actually breathe out as I lift that way. Now, that may change depending on the exercise. So instead of just thinking, oh, if you lift the weight, breathe out, and you lower weight, breathe in, think about what the body's doing. Is it going into the flex position, or is it coming out of the flex position into extension? So, say I go to do a cable push, for instance. So say I go to a cable push, and all I'm doing is that I'm pushing out into this position here. Now, what do you think I'm going to do? So I'm pushing here to lift the weight. Am I going to be breathing out or breathing in using my third? Out. That's correct. Just follow on the movement. Think to yourself, am I going into a flex position or into a extended position? Now say I turn around and actually go to the cable, I'm doing a single arm pull here. Am I breathing out or in? With my third. In. That's correct. Okay, say I was to go do a close grip lat pull down. So the angle of my grip might actually change the way. Say I was to take a close grip lat pull down, and I was to pull back down towards me. Out or in, as I look that way? Out. That's correct. Because I'm going into that flex position. Say I was to go do an underhand grip low row. So say I was to be here and here, I was to pull that towards me. In or out? In. So I want to use my breathing to excite the right muscles that I want to actually get firing. So breathing in, taking me into extension. Breathing out, taking me into flexion. So I want you to go away and experiment with that. Now, carefully doing deadlifts, the first time I actually did this, I actually found that I came up so quickly, you could potentially hyperextend the spine. So just make sure you just come up into that upright position, just be careful. Now, this also works very well for some trained and not trained clients. So, you can see the CrossFit clients here in the back of you. So, what I mean by trained and not trained is, who's a personal trainer, by the way? Do you have any personal trainers? Quite a few. Now, if you're a personal trainer, which as I am myself, the majority of the time you get those clients who come in who are really stressed, they've had a really tired, hard day at work, etc. And they come in and you think to yourself, okay, what? And maybe it's not the right time to actually beast them. Maybe it's not the right time to give them a hard workout. Maybe you think to yourself that hard workout might actually be counterproductive to them. If they've had a tired or stressful day and they come in and you think to yourself, okay, you're planning to do some big powerlifting circuit, that might be counterproductive to them. So this actually slots in perfectly when that client comes in. So experiment it with yourself first of all. And what I mean by that is if you're actually doing medium to light weights and you're syncing your exercises with breathing in potentially the correct way for the mechanics of our body, you'll actually have a re-energizing effect with your clients. So instead of them going out feeling crap, they'll go out feeling good. So they come in, if you're getting them to do 20 repetition lightweight deadlifts, syncing with breathing, the amount of oxygen they're going to get in, they're going to be high as a kite by the time they're finished. All that extra oxygen will actually have a re-energizing effect on their body. So it's actually really good to slot it in when you think to yourself, you've got that stressed client, maybe actually beasting them is not the right workout for them today. Do you want your clients to feel good or do you want to feel bad? So you can actually get that client walking out actually feeling great, to actually give them that extra oxygen. So you can actually facilitate that with the movement of their spine. Have we stopped breathing the way we should on lots of these patients for this? So I'd like everybody to put one hand onto their chest, for me please, and one hand onto their tummy. Now just breathe normally for me please, no big deep breaths or anything like that. And I want you to just breathe normally. Now as you're breathing, in my findings, I found that your chest actually shouldn't move. So you should only feel your tummy move. So you shouldn't actually feel that chest move. This is in normal breathing, I'm sorry about that. So that chest should actually just be staying still. You should only feel your tummy move. Now, I'd like everybody to take a big, massive, so just assess that yourself. Here's my chest moving. If your chest is moving, maybe you might be overusing those secondary assistant muscles too much, as I was talking about before. Now, like everybody's taking a big deep breath. Massive deep breath. So again, just assess what you feel. Now, in my findings, I've found that you should actually have 2/3 of the air going into your tummy, and you should have 1/3 of the air then go into your chest. 2/3 of the air into your tummy first, 1/3 into your chest. Is anybody's tummies actually going flat as they breathe in? Yes. So as you breathe in, your tummy's going flat. So this guy, I see this quite commonly. I call this a reverse breathing pattern. So you might actually find that as people are breathing in, the tummy's actually going flat instead of breathing out, instead of actually inflating into the tummy. So you may find that person's not actually diaphragmatically breathing. So they may actually be overusing too many muscles they don't actually need to use. Now, I actually see this quite commonly. So has anybody here got children or babies? Have you got children or babies? Oh, quite a few. Okay. So what I would like you to do is I'd like to have a little look at your children and your babies when they breathe. Just look at the way that they breathe. I seem to have seen children and babies breathe. They just breathe into the little tummies. Their chest doesn't seem to move at all. Their tummy seems to inflate. And they don't seem to breathe into the chest. They don't seem to do this secondary assistance breathing that us adults seem to do. So they seem to breathe just into their tummies. And then I seem to assess adults, when adults come into my gym, and I assess them, they seem to breathe just into their chest. And we seem to have a lot of chest breathers. So maybe at some point during our lives, we've actually forgotten to breathe the way that we should have done as a child. Maybe that life becomes so stressful, we become so busy, that we actually end up stop diaphragmatically breathing. We end up breathing into our chest. We're not actually taking as much oxygen as we're meant to. Now, a lot of people, it's quite easy to breathe, but as soon as we get into stressful situations, we start panicking, or we get stressed, then we actually rely too much on those secondary assistant muscles. I do it myself when I'm sending an email. I don't know why I do it. I get towards the end of the email, it's a very important email. As I'm about to finish, I hold my breath. I can't work out why I do this. I end up holding my breath as I'm about to send the last bit of the email. And I just think, so why on earth are you doing that? And it seems to be like a response to stress that we have. And we seem to maybe from being a child, I don't know what point it happens, from being a child until an adult, we actually just lose the way that we're meant to breathe. And I'm challenging today that maybe that's something we should be restoring. Maybe the health and biomechanics of our body would actually greatly improve if we could breathe the way we were meant to as a child. So it's quite simple. You just have to look at the lungs. I mean, which is the smallest part, which is the biggest part? The smallest part's at the top, the biggest part's at the bottom. So, why on earth would we only want to use the smallest part of the lungs? Maybe we're only half breathing. So, breathing betters everything that I do. I actually find a place for it, correct breathing, in all of in any line of work that I have. Whether it's a massage and I want to relax somebody beforehand, to relax the muscles to make the massage more effective, or I'm doing a personal training session where you can do a lot of cardiovascular fitness, I want to get into more oxygen into that person. Or as a client coming in, it's for the first session at 6:30 in the morning, and I want to wake them up. So I actually get them doing some lightweight breathing and actually really get them high on oxygen. Or maybe it's the last client at night time, and having 8:30 till 9 session. And I actually, after the session, I want to calm that client down. So I lay them down and get them to do some deep diaphragmatic breathing. I tie it into everything that I do. So for me, it's the most important thing that I find. It's the most important thing that I assess. And it's the first thing that I correct. So I just want to show you now how to actually assess somebody's breathing. So could I borrow somebody? Somebody might come up at all. So I could actually just assess their breathing for them. Oh, thank you very much.
I've got to get my belly out there, otherwise.
You do not have to get your belly out. Thank you very much. Okay, could you just try to slide down to the back? So, if I'm saying that we need to actually be breathing, you just bend your legs quickly, that's right. I'm just saying that we actually need to breathe more into our tummies. We need to actually utilise our breathing to its full effect. then what I want you to do, just breathe in fully, so we take a deep breath in for it. So all I'm going to do is I'll just put my hands just onto the tummy here. And put hands on the tummy, I just feel, are we getting 2/3 of that air going into the tummy first and not into the chest? Now make sure as well that you ask your client first of all, is it okay you can touch them? Yeah, make sure you ask them if it's alright. You can actually get them to assess themselves if not. So all you do, you just take a deep breath in first. Very good, breathe out. And again. You've practiced this beforehand, haven't you? And back. Breathe in again. Alright, very good. So you've got good intra-abdominal pressure there, very good. Back out. Fantastic. So she's breathing really well into her tummy. Then also as well, what I then do is make sure they're breathing into the side. So then just put my hands just around the side areas. Breathe in from the please. And back out. So I can feel those sides inflate. It's fantastic. Breathe in and back out. Now, thank you very much. Just there for 1 second. Now, what actually might be the problem with this assessment? Say again, sorry. Trying to do it. Trying to do the breathing technique. If somebody's actually struggling to do it, so actually teaching them to do it. So yeah, so we might actually find that actually teaching them to do it if they can't do it, they might actually be restricted in some way. So we'd have to give them some breathing exercises. It might not happen overnight, and we might have to do a little bit of work with them. But there's something else that's actually taken into this assessment here. That's the problem with them lying down on the floor. Don't always lie down, be one of them. What may be taken out of the situation by them lying with their back onto the floor? There we go. I heard like kyphosis and a few other things to do with posture. It's correct, the posture position. So if I get this, what's your name, sorry? Like if I get Claire down on the floor and she comes to me as a client and I put my hands on her tummy, you're fantastic at breathing. And then she gets back up and those positive pec minors and that thoracic spine comes back and she carries on chest breathing. And then what was the use in that? Well, you created breathing on the floor, but as soon as you get up, you're rubbish. This is no good. So what I would actually do is assess them onto the floor and then assess them standing up, and just to see how that breathing is. Now, maybe that if Claire was really good on the floor at breathing, when her posture position was taken out of it, but then as she stood up, she couldn't breathe at all, maybe that might indicate that one of the things that's affecting her breathing is her posture. So that might move me into the right direction of thinking what's actually stopping her from breathing effectively when she's standing up. Thank you very much, Claire. Thank you. So the diaphragm link to intrinsic biomechanics, and can it help reduce the risk of back injury? Now, do we have any more strength athletes or people who lift heavy weights here? So who lifts heavy weights? Okay. Okay, so now say that I was going to go up to my deadlift bar and I was actually going to do my 1 rep max. Do you think as I go to do my 1 rep max I'm going to breathe in as I come up and out as I go down? Or do you think something else is going to happen? What might happen?
Hold your breath.
I will hold my breath. That's correct. I will hold my breath. Now that's actually a taught manoeuvre called the Valsalva manoeuvre. It's actually taught in strength and conditioning, actually to create spinal stability. Now, once if nobody ever taught me that manoeuvre, do you think that would still happen or not?
Probably.
There we go. Okay. I think it'd be an automatic response. I think it'd be an automatic response. I think nobody taught me that. I think if I go to lift up a heavy weight that's maximal weight, I think my body's going to say to myself, hold your breath. And I think it's going to do that to, my personal opinion is it's going to do that to create intra-abdominal pressure. So when that diaphragm contracts and descends downwards, it's going to create space. You're going to hold in there, and then when we hold in that air, that's then going to create intra-abdominal pressure to actually protect my spine and actually help stabilise my spine. Now, there's been much debate as to what actually goes on there and why that happens, because if you notice, these powerlifters, they're lifting extremely heavy weights, and the majority of them are not actually damaging their backs. So something quite magnificent goes on with that holding your breath as you're lifting that weight. That's why they go red in the face. Now, from a survival point of view, if a caveman had to pick up a heavy rock and his body said, "Oh, hold your breath," then if he popped a disc out his back, he's screwed. There's nothing he can do. So it's from a survival point of view, our body's going to say to us to hold our breath to actually protect the stability of the spine. Now, there's been much debate into what actually goes on when that happens. Researchers have debated whether if the diaphragm contracts itself to create spinal stability, there's still a lot more research that needs to go into that, if the movement of the diaphragm simply creates intra-abdominal pressure to create stability, or C, if the intra-abdominal pressure simply causes the trunk muscles to switch on, which then creates the stability. So I looked into a study in the Journal of Biomechanics by Stuart McGill, Stuart McGill, and their conclusion was that intra-abdominal pressure mechanism for stabilising the lumbar spine appears preferable in tasks that demand trunk extensor movement, such as lifting or jumping. This mechanism can increase the spine stability without the co-activator of the rectal spine muscles. So in other words, what they found out is the increased intra-abdominal pressure can actually create stability for the spine without the back muscles being involved. Now it's got to be a combination of everything together to create stability, but they actually did tests just on the intra-abdominal pressure. They actually found this was enough to create the stability of the spine. Then there was another one in the Journal of Biomechanics called intra-abdominal pressure and increased stiffness of the lumbar spine. They concluded the increase in spinal stiffness was positively correlated with the size of intra-abdominal pressure increased without abdominal activity. The result of this study providing evidence that the stiffness of the lumbar spine is increased when intra-abdominal pressure is elevated. So what they're saying is the more intra-abdominal pressure you have, the more stiffness and stability your lumbar spine is going to have. Now that test was done without the activation of abdominal muscles. So they're finding without the activation of these trunk muscles and the size of your intra-abdominal pressure is going to create more of a stabilising effect onto your spine. Now I think they actually, in that study, they actually found that the stiffness of the lumbar was actually increased by up to 31%. It's quite a lot of stiffness increase on that lumbar spine to protect the spine. So if we're finding that this intra-abdominal pressure is a key thing in making sure that we don't hurt our backs and don't injure ourselves, then maybe this is something we need to be working on. So who has clients here who lift heavy weights or lift heavy weights themselves? You know, quite a lot of people. We're teaching people to become strong, but maybe this is something that we're not actually integrating into our system enough. I mean, just out of interest, does anybody here actually work on their intra-abdominal pressure? We've got one at the back, fantastic. You work on your intra-abdominal pressure?
Yeah, because I do Catholic floor of 4 store work.
Fantastic. So we've got one. Is anybody else that works on their intra-abdominal pressure? 2. 3. Yeah? Fantastic. So this is, you can see that it's the minority. It doesn't tend to be a lot of people who are actually working on this. And I'm challenging that this is maybe something that we need to actually be doing. If we want to actually have clients to actually be strong and actually not get injured, obviously, then maybe we actually need to be doing this. So actually we'll show you now one of the techniques I'll actually use to actually help increase some of this intra-abdominal pressure. Can I borrow somebody else who's very good at diaphragmatic breathing? Breathe to the tummy. Anybody? There we go, thank you very much. Thank you. Now, if you just lie down on your back, because okay, what's your name? Sorry. Thank you so much, Kim. Now, with Kim, I'm not assessing here. So, my primary goal here is just to simply increase intra-abdominal pressure. So you could do it stood up with a resistance band around the tummy, but you could just do it lay down. So what I'm going to do, now obviously the weight can vary dependent on the stage that the person, the individual's at, the strength they're at, and how many times they've done this. You can build this up over time. Now all I would do, if you just show me your diaphragmatic breathing comforts, breathing to tummy, and back out, fantastic. So you can see that tummy inflating, so it's good. So what I'm going to do, just to try and increase that intra-abdominal pressure, is I'm just going to put a plate just onto the tummy. This is a 5 kilogram plate. It's a reasonable height to start with. Now what we'd like to do is I'd like to just breathe in and roll that down. Breathe in. Now you'd start off reasonably slowly. Now you've got to be careful with this because if you're increasing this over time and they're sucking loads of air into the tummy and they're lifting quite a heavy weight, that person might get up afterwards and might feel a little bit dizzy. Yeah, because they've suddenly got access to all this oxygen they didn't have access to before. So don't do this in between sets of squats. You know, don't just do this. Maybe this might be ideal to do before you've warmed somebody up. So just do some mobility exercises, warm them up. Do this, then warm them up. You don't really want to be doing this once somebody's warmed up because they're lay down on the back, then potentially they're cooling down. And you don't really want to be doing it in between quite tough exercises. Or you can even do this outside of the exercise session, completely different day. Yeah, rest day, etc. So you're going to breathe in. Now what I found as well, this isn't my findings, that you can actually help belly breathe more effectively by actually just sucking in air from the mouth. So we're always taught breathe in through a nose and out. That's actually great for relaxation, etc. But if you just suck in through that mouth and back out through the mouth, you can actually send that air straight down. So you're actually really getting that air down nice and low and really increasing that intra-abdominal pressure. So you can obviously build up the weight over time. And if I'm finding that this is actually going to help my client from damaging the spine, potentially make the spine more stiff when lifting weights, then maybe this is something we need to be doing more of. Okay? Thank you so much, Kim. Just be careful standing up and get really busy. Thank you, Kim. The diaphragm's connection with the psoas and back health. So the diaphragm has got a lot of nerve endings. So what does that tell us? It tells us it's important. And it's actually connected through fascia to the psoas, which is one of our main, most important hip flexor muscles, which also has a lot of nerve endings. So what does that tell us? It's important. You can actually see. So the diaphragm and the psoas are connected. See that? You can actually see on the picture that we had earlier, you can see here, the psoas are actually going in for a fascial connection into the diaphragm. You can actually even see the left quadratus lumborum as well, going through into the diaphragm. Now we know how important these muscles are for good biomechanical health. So maybe if our diaphragm is working more effectively, that might have a positive impact on these muscles and the mechanics of our body. And theoretically, if any of these muscles were in spasm, that may actually have an impact, a negative impact, on the function of our diaphragm. So maybe if our diaphragm works effectively, then maybe that might affect our core and the way our core functions correctly. We might actually have better core function, better mechanics of the body, simply by getting our diaphragm working more effectively, because there's definitely a link there. Now, I actually looked into studies to do with people with diaphragm function and lower back pain, and whether there's any difference between the diaphragm position in people with back pain and without back pain. And then in the Journal of Orthopedic and Physical Therapy, there was actually a study called Postural Function of the Diaphragm versus chronic lower back pain. And the objectives were to study the function of the diaphragm in people with chronic lower back pain. The conclusion was reduced diaphragm movement and abnormal positioning of the diaphragm appeared in the group with lower back pain when postural tasks were applied, pointing to the importance of posture's relationship to normal diaphragm function, which may make symptoms of chronic lower back pain worse by increasing shear forces on the spine. So they actually found that people with back pain actually have abnormal diaphragm positions. So maybe if your diaphragm works more effectively, then that might not be the cause, but if there's a problem with the diaphragm, that might exacerbate, lower back pathologies in your clients or in yourselves. So breathing and the MSAC process. So if you're not a biomechanics coach, I'll just briefly explain what the MSAC process is. The MSAC process is a process that we use on a dysfunctional muscle. And it's a process. We don't do it in one session. We do it over time, depending on what stage the individual's at. Now, each letter of MSAC actually stands for something different, a different stage along the process. So what I would like to demonstrate is how I have integrated breathing. Like I said before, I integrate breathing with everything, because I think that's such important. I'd like to explain how I've integrated breathing with the MSAC process. So could I borrow somebody please again? Anybody? Somebody? Come on, don't be shy. Oh, come on. Thank you very much. Okay, so like I said, this is a process we use on a distance. Thank you so much. Should I? Sure. Thank you very much. Sure. Thank you. Okay, so this is actually a process we use on a dysfunctional muscle, and the muscle that I'm going to give you an example for is that positive pec minor. So pec minor is the muscle that actually pulls the shoulder forward into this position here, and we find it quite common. A lot of people are in this position. And as you felt before, this actually inhibits the way that you can breathe out. So I'm going to demonstrate the MSAC process, integrated breathing, on how I'd actually correct this muscle and actually pull someone's shoulders back to actually facilitate good breathing. Sean. Yes. So with Sean, I've already taught him how to diaphragmatically breathe, because I don't want to undo this muscle on Sean and then him to go away and then to carry on chest breathing, because potentially all that chest breathing might actually make that muscle tight. Maybe that's a cause of some people's neck problems. Maybe some people are going around doing shrugs all day without realising it. So with Sean, what I'm going to do is I've already taught him how to diaphragmatically breathe, and now I'm actually going to do the first stage on the MSAT process, which is the M. Okay, so biomechanics coaches, what does M stand for? Muscle release. Okay, Sean, just if you could lie down on your back on the floor. So one of the muscle releases we use. Oh, already. Yeah. Say again, sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, of course I can.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I can't.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Sean, do you want to come again? If there's anything you missed before where we're laying down the floor, just tell me at the end.
Thank you.
So, one of the muscle releases we actually use is the 20-20, which is basically, if a muscle's potentially in spasm, then actually stretching it, or strengthening it up as everybody does, might actually be counterproductive to that muscle. So we actually contract, it's a proven effective method for taking a muscle out of spasm. We actually contract the muscle with 20% of our strength for 20 seconds. So we just gently contract that muscle, and that's actually been proven to actually take the spasm out of the muscle. So that's the first step we do. So all we're going to do, so our pec minor is here. So we'll assess by just feeling the distance between this ball bit and then onto the floor here, onto the bed. We feel the distance between here. Ideally we want to be about 2 fingers, so a little bit more than that, but it's quite muscular, so we'll probably allow 3. Now, what we've got a pec minor muscle here, and that pulls it forward. So what I'd like to do is put your hand onto your tummy. Now, with 20% of your strength, so you just have to just gauge that roughly, I'd like you to just gently just protract your shoulder blades into my hands. So what you're going to do is just protract them forward, like so. Now, so his pec minor muscle now is actually contracting. And this gentle contraction can help take the muscle out of spasm if it's in spasm. And then what I'm going to do is I've found that exhalation at the right time can actually help take a muscle out of spasm more. It can actually relax the muscle and relax the nervous system. So as you're pushing it down, as we get to about 15 seconds, what I'd like you to do is take a big deep diaphragmatic breath if you can, so breathe into the tummy. And then as you breathe out, stop pushing. Just breathe out and relax. Now we do this 4 times, ideally 4 times a day. And all I'm doing is I'm syncing exhalation, because I know that relaxes the muscles in the nervous system, and I'm syncing that with the contraction part to help bring the muscle back. So again, you're just going to push forward with 20% of your strength for 20 seconds. As we get to 15 seconds, we nearly get to 20, take a big deep diaphragmatic breath into the tummy, off you go. And as you breathe out, I simply just let go. And this is one of the anti-spasm techniques that we do, and I've integrated breathing with that. Okay, so just as we're about to finish the anti-spasm, get them to breathe out, and you can just feel your muscles and nervous system relax. And that might assist in taking a spasming muscle out of spasm. So once M's done, that's the first thing, you just stay there for a second. So once M's done, the next process, next part of the process is S. So biomechanics coach, what does S stand for in the MSAT process? Stretching, okay, stretch. So we've taken this muscle out of spasm. So what we want to do now is we actually want to stretch it out. So the way we're going to stretch it out is all you're going to do is I'm going to stay in the same position, I'm going to be at the head of my spine here. I would like you to push your shoulders forward with 20% of your strength again as you breathe into your tummy. And then as you breathe out, I'd like you to stop pushing, and all I'm going to do is just gently just retract the shoulder blade there and just open up that pec minor. Okay, so you're going to push forward as you breathe in, and then as you breathe out, relax, and I'm just going to gently open that up. Do that again for me, please. Push and breathe in into the tummy. So I'm actually doing 2 things. I'm actually stretching the muscle, and I'm actually teaching a bit of diaphragmatic breathing as well. So push again. And as you breathe out, we'll just open up, just stretch up. Again for me, please. Push. And back down. We might do this for about 12 repetitions here. Okay. Now, so that's the S, and that's how it is. Now, I use that with a lot of stretching. I very rarely stretch somebody without getting to exhale as I take them into the stretch position. So I use that pretty much all muscles. That, in my findings, I found that when they breathe out, the muscles in the nervous system relaxes, then why would I not want them to integrate breathing with that? Why would I not want to exhale just to take them to stretch? Now again, this is something you need to play around with yourselves and just actually see how much extra flexibility you get from actually just breathing correctly when you're actually doing stretches. So that's S on the MSAT process. Can you stand up for me? One second, push up. So that's S, so now I've done the muscle release, I've done the stretch. Now what does the A stand for in the MSAT process? Fantastic. So if Sean's has had, forward shoulders here, positive pec minor, so really tight in this position here. This tight pec minor could actually inhibit the way the antagonistic muscle fires the back and works. So what I want to do now is I actually want to do a bit of conditioning on the antagonist muscles, so they work together. So I want to actually condition the antagonist. The way that we're going to do that, again, this is not done in one session, this is done over a process, so I'm just showing you in one session. I'd like to just pop your hand through that. So all we're going to do is we're just going to do some retractions. So all we're going to do is we can do some retractions. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like to put your left foot forward, please. And we're just going to teach those antagonist muscles, so like the mid-traps and the rhomboids and the thigh. So I'd like with a straight arm, I'd like you to just do a shoulder blade retraction with this one, please. So you're just going to retract, and then you're going to pull and go into a supinated pull. So you're going to pull and go underneath here. So we might be in our PT sessions, we'll add a bit of a pull into it at the end, but it's this retraction that I want. So you're going to do this one, please. Ready? So you're going to pull against the resistance band, and then go into a super. That's it. And then all we're doing now is we're teaching those antagonist muscles to fire correctly. So they may be inhibited by this type of positive Peakman. So you just do this one, please. Now, how might I integrate breathing into this movement? I see it's pulling towards. Inhale, because I want to excite supination and extension. So as you pull towards you, I would like to just inhale as you pull back towards you. I want to excite that, the supination and extension. That's it, come back. And again, forward, please. So you're going to shrug, breathe in, and breathe out as you come back. So again, we're teaching diaphragmatic breathing while we're doing our MSET process. Okay, we're exciting the right muscles and breathing with the mechanics of our body. Now that's A, so biomechanics coaching, just keep hold of that for 1 second. What's C? Conditioning. So what I'd like to do is now going to condition the Peakman muscle here. So it's been in this shortened position, it may be potentially weak. So the last process is conditioning. So what I'd like you to do now is you stand like this way forward. Keep hold of that. You're going to face away from me, and I'd like you to just do a shoulder blade protraction. So you're just going to do a protraction. So I'm going to hold it here. Put your left leg forward for me, please. And all you're going to do is just push and protract forward. So now all we're doing is we're conditioning. It's our last stage in the MSAT process. And pull back for me, please. And then push out again. So you're going to push forward and protract that shoulder.